Do you remember Britpop? You know, Parkers, guitars, Union Jacks, basically the 90s. Britpop was birthed out of the grunge and shoegaze scenes of the mid-80s and pulled together a lighter, cheerier side to alternative music. It would go on to become the UK mainstream and define British culture for the era. Dozens of bands like Pulp, Elastica and Suede would find success in the genre, but undoubtedly the two biggest were Blur and Oasis. And yep, they obviously hated each other. But why? In this episode of Explained, we look into the Blur-Oasis feud and the Battle of Britpop. It started in August 1995, where a chart battle actually made the TV news. Was it hysteria? Was it hype? Well, maybe it was a little bit of both. At that point, both Blur and Oasis were in transitional periods. Blur had enjoyed huge success in 1994 with Parklife, which cemented them as one of Britain's best rock bands. Oasis were gearing up for the release of their second LP, after the enormous impact of their debut, Definitely Maybe. Up until the spring of '95, Oasis and Blur had been reasonably respectful toward each other, pretty unfazed with the other's success. And then, the stars aligned, and it looked as if the two biggest artists in Britpop would be going head-to-head for the #1 spot. Blur with Country House, and Oasis with Roll With It. The challenge was immediately thrown down. It was perfect for the press. The rough, working class, no-nonsense northerners versus the university-educated hipster southerners. And so, the mudslinging began. It's believed Blur actually moved the release date of their single in order to challenge the Mancunian brothers.
I'm a little nervous about the whole thing, obviously, because I think both bands have really upped the stakes.
Albarn's admitted that Noel Gallagher's jibes in the press used to hurt. So when the chance came to prove who was the better band, well, Damon's competitive streak got the better of him. And Creation Records boss Alan McGee recalls that Blur definitely moved their release date to go head-to-head with Oasis. Either way, both Country House and Roll With It were due to be released on Monday the 14th of August 1995. The Blur track was something of a novelty and written about former Food Records boss and Blur manager Dave Balfe, who'd quit the business and moved to the country. The track was accompanied by a video directed by Britpop's artist-in-residence Damien Hirst and starred comedians Keith Allen and Matt Lucas and model Joe Guest. Roll With It was given a, shall we say, much simpler video and was a standard film performance from the Gallaghers. In fact, Tim Burgess from the Charlatans called it Flat Pack Oasis. Noel explained that Roll With It was just a simple rock and roll tune. The CD was backed with the tracks It's Better People and Rocking Chair, plus a live version of Live Forever, taken from that summer's Glastonbury Festival. The competition immediately caught the eye of the NME, who stoked the controversy by calling it the Big Chart Showdown, and the battle even caught the attention of the mainstream news media. The result of the chart chase was unveiled on Sunday the 20th of August, at the end of the Top 40 countdown. Country House outsold Roll With It by 274,000 to 216,000 copies. Some cynics pointed to the fact that the Blur release had 2 CD singles, one with some live tracks from their Mile End show from June 1995. Alex James later explained that Blur won the battle, Oasis won the war, then Blur went on to win the whole campaign. The Gallaghers were not happy, and things remained frosty between the Oasis and Blur camp for a long time.
The issue's over?
Well, no, not until I see him and have a word with him about what he said about my band behind our back. It's not over. And until I speak to him, it's not over.
In the years since, the Gallagher brothers' own personal war saw their band split acrimoniously in 2009, and things have mellowed somewhat between the two Britpop Goliaths. The hatchet was officially buried in 2013, when Noel Gallagher joined Albarn and Coxon on stage at a show for the Teenage Cancer Trust. Damon's since revealed that he values his friendship with Noel because they've shared the same experiences during the Battle of Britpop.